Structured teaching at home. Welcome. My name's Pam Reed. I'm an ASD consultant with the School Support Program at the Maltby Center. This module will be approximately 30 minutes long, and it will be the first module in the series. It will provide an overview of how to use structured teaching at home to teach your child skills. Let's get started. Participants will learn the basics of structured teaching and how it can be used at home. There will be modules to follow this introductory module that will provide video examples of using this approach to teach your child skills. So what is structured teaching? Structured teaching is based on the Teach Autism program, which is a clinical training and research program based at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. It is a visually based system for organizing your environment and developing activities that help children understand and learn expectations. It's highly visual and structured approach, and it promotes understanding of schedules, activities, and expectations for children. So it allows children to clearly understand expectations and routines, understand the expectations in their environment, be more independent, less prompting from adults, less anxiety around transitions and new activities, be able to apply learned skills to other environments, and teaching can occur anywhere. It capitalizes on the strengths of children with autism. It includes providing predictable and meaningful routines through the use of structure and adding visual and structural supports to home instruction and activities to increase engagement and independence. So some benefits of structured teaching are that it assists with information and instructions. So it helps the child understand information provided and what they're supposed to do. It supports learning because it's visually based. It reduces anxiety and problematic behaviors because the child knows what the expectations are. It reduces frequent prompting. The prompts provided in structured teaching are visually based, so as the child learns the system, you can reduce the amount of prompting you provide. It supports learning routines. The structure always stays the same, and the more practice the child has, the better off they are. And it provides a predictable environment. The child understands what the expectations are. And teaching can occur anywhere, at home, school, or the community. The great thing about being home right now is that we can work on some skills with our children and then generalize them back to school when they return to school or daycare. There are 4 components of structured teaching. Structured teaching is not a curriculum, but instead a framework to support teaching skills and increasing learning. The first component is physical environment. That's the physical organization. Number 2 is the visual schedule. The schedules will be individualized to your child. Number 3 is the work system, the work and activities that are provided for your child. And 4 is visual structures. That's the materials in the tasks and activities. Here's an example of physical structure. Physical structure is defining or laying out specific areas that the child will interact with. So areas to consider within your home are play areas, work areas, so where your child will work independently or with an adult, quiet and sensory areas at your home. You can visually define any area that you'll be teaching the skill in: the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen, dinner table, laundry room. The list goes on and on. So physical structure is defining or laying out specific areas that your child will interact with. So in setting up your home, you need to think about your child's strengths and needs. Children with autism really like clear guidelines and boundaries. Therefore, establishing those at home is essential. Each distinct area needs to be identified and specific for the child. It can be the arrangement of furniture and materials to add meaning. And it helps establish a routine so that your child associates activities with specific areas or places at home. For example, if you're working with your child on eating at the dinner table, it might not be a great idea to be doing work tasks. You might have to have a separate area to do that so that the child clearly understands that when I go to the dinner table, the expectation is eating. So here are some examples of how you can add physical structure at home. Play areas, work areas, your quiet, calm areas, or areas where your child is able to interact with sensory activities. Any area in your home you can use that your child interacts with. Key points to remember are to establish clear visual and physical boundaries. Minimize visual and auditory distraction, particularly when you're first introducing physical structure or the work system. You want to make sure that your child can focus on what you're trying to teach. Let's think about how you can add physical structure at home. You can define work areas where your child will be doing specific tasks. You can move chairs or shelves. You can use colored bins or baskets to outline play areas or work tasks. And you can define play areas. You have to figure out the needs of your child and that will be how you will structure at home. The next component is a visual schedule. A visual schedule communicates the what, where, and when of the day. It consists of visual cues that tell your child what activities will occur and in what sequence. Visual schedule is used to explain what daily activities will be happening and when they will occur. Showing a child with autism a daily schedule visually helps them understand the sequence of the day, including playtime, activities, meals, chores, and other tasks. It helps ease stress because it's more predictable for the child to understand what they're doing. Schedules are also one of the main tools that allow children to develop independence. They're not always relying on adults to tell them what to do and what happens next. The benefits of using a visual schedule is it helps communicate change or transition. It communicates the first-then sequence of work and play. First, I do this activity, then I get to play with Paw Patrol. It promotes independence and builds flexibility because the events may change, but the routine of the schedule remains the same. Things to consider when using a visual schedule is to choose an appropriate symbol for your child. Is it an object, a picture or a photo, line drawings, clip art, written words, or symbols, or a combination? Other things to consider is the length of the schedule. Are you going to use just one for transition? For example, the first example here will show it's time to go out and play. Will you use a first then? First, get dressed, then video games. Will you have a partial day or a full day? It really depends on what you think your child can manage. I often recommend to begin with a first then because you're following a task with something preferred. There are many apps and online resources for families to access. ChoiceWorks, a first then schedule app, ASD tools, and also ABA resources, I think it's .com, has free visual supports that you can print. So there's plenty of things online as well that you can go and print off templates and actual photos or pictures. Other things to consider is location and mobility. Where are you going to put your schedule? It needs to be in a transition area, and it needs to be someplace where your child can access it and see it. Is it going to be portable? Is it going to move around with their child? In the beginning, you might want to carry the visual schedule because it might be easier for you to teach when you're using a structured teaching system? Will your child, you might look at having your child carry an object or carry and match symbols or reference symbols or mark off or move to a finish pocket when they're finished. It's totally up to what you think your child can manage. Another great idea is having a whiteboard, because you can write out words if your child can read, but you can also draw pictures and you can change it frequently. So that works really well. You need to have the schedule if you're teaching a skill in the area where you're going to teach the skill. So for example, this one, the schedule is in the shower so that the child can follow the different steps he or she needs to take to complete taking a shower. And again, many people put their schedules in the kitchen on the fridge. And this is a good example because it's at eye level for the child, and it also has a finish pocket so the child knows when they're finished. What kind of visual do you think would work for your child? Having a daily responsibilities using pictures, having a finish pocket, using a first then board, either having words or pictures, or both, using objects, or using photos to outline a sequence for a task. If you would like further training and information regarding how to use visual schedules, see the training titled Why Use a Visual Schedule presented by the Multi-Center. This will provide you with more information on how to implement a visual schedule at home. The third component of structured teaching is a work system. A work system is an extension of the visual schedule. It provides your child with the information and materials they need to complete the task or a series of tasks. It lets your child know how much work he or she has to do and what work still needs to be done. What happens next, and clearly has the concept of being finished or all done as part of the work system. So the child is taught the steps that need to be done and the order to complete the task or series of tasks. And it teaches a left to right movement of materials. It helps the child understand when they're finished, and they begin with one task at a time before returning to the schedule to see what comes next. So when you're beginning to use a work system, I would recommend just using one task at a time at the beginning and then gradually add tasks, because you want your child to be successful. And the activity that comes after they finish the task should be a preferred activity so that you can build motivation for your child to complete the original activity. The benefits of a work system are: it teaches routines, promotes independence, less prompting from adults, supports generalization across settings because the system remains the same, but you can use it anywhere. It supports organization, sequencing, and problem-solving ability for children. And it tells the child, the schedule tells the child where to go, and the work system tells them what to do when they get there. And both are very visually based. Flexibility. It builds flexibility for the child because once you have the system set up, the activities can change. Almost any skill can be taught using a work system. It's clear, concrete, and visual. There are 4 types of work systems: left to right with a finish basket, top to bottom with a finish basket, a system that uses matching, or written system. The system needs to be individualized to the child, and the concept of finished is a key component of the system. The more the child follows the system and works through it, it becomes part of a routine. Here's some examples of work systems. It shows a variety of ways that you can set up a work system to teach skills and increase independence. So you could be structuring a daily routine of getting dressed to go outside, setting the table, working at a table one-to-one, matching, following a schedule to work independently, or learning daily living skills such as brushing your teeth. So as you can see in all these pictures, everything is clearly laid out in a visual format with left to right progression, and then the one is a top. One of the pictures depicts a top to bottom. How will you set up your work system? Will it be left to right, top to bottom? Will you be matching objects and pictures, letters, or numbers? Will it be one step or multiple steps? One activity or multiple activities? You need to choose what your child can manage to be successful. The fourth component is visual structures in tasks. It teaches your child to look for the instructions first. Tasks need to be achievable and organized, and a sequence is followed which results in the task being completed. So the complexity of the task will evolve as your child's ability evolves. So you want to start out simple. You want to start it with something you know your child can do and then build from there. You can incorporate your child's special interests. So for example, if your child likes Paw Patrol, have activities that require your child to match Paw Patrol or organize Paw Patrol characters. And it supports independence because the visual cues are the prompts, and we're relying more on the visual prompts than the verbal prompts from adults. Types of visual structure are visual instructions, which are the steps of the task that are clearly laid out to indicate the starting point, the middle, and the end. Visual organization is the physical placement of materials within the space that you have provided or created, and activities are organized from left to right or top to bottom. Space and supplies for the activity are clearly laid out and defined. In both of these examples, you can visually see what the expectation is for the task without any verbal explanation. Types of visual structure, again, visual clarity. Helping the child understand what the task is and how to complete the task. This can be done by adding color or providing clear visual instructions. Organization is how we've organized structurally the system. So the child learns that it can be applied to a variety of tasks, and this helps promote independence. So when you look at both of these examples, you can clearly see what you're supposed to be doing and what the expectation is. So how will you add visual structure? Will you lay out the materials to complete the task? Will you provide clear visual instructions and cues? Will you have only the materials needed to complete the task present? And are your materials organized and in the proper order? These are really important things to consider when you're thinking about adding visual structure to your work system. The next thing we're going to talk about is reinforcement and prompting. I'm just going to provide a quick overview of using reinforcement and prompting, but if you want to know more about it, you can go to the Multi-Center website, and there was a training titled Learning Together Series, an Introduction to Applied Behavior Analysis. This is a parent training that gives an overview of using applied behavioral analysis. So let's move on. Using reinforcement. Reinforcement is the key to teaching any new skill. In the beginning, you really want to heavily reinforce your child when they are learning a new skill. So when you're introducing the work system for the very first time, you want to make sure that you're really reinforcing your child. You want to use preferred items and activities as well as praise. So some of the activities that you can incorporate in the work system could be activities that they really enjoy. You want to make sure that you have quick reinforcers available that you can deliver while teaching, and then provide a preferred activity when your child completes the task. Things like edibles, snacks, candies, pieces of fruit can be used as quick reinforcers. You want to be sure to use verbal praise. You want to be sure that you pair any reinforcement that you're providing your child with praise. And as the child demonstrates a skill, reinforcement can be faded to the preferred activity at the end. But at the beginning, we really want to be reinforcing heavily so that our child wants to learn. So tips on delivering reinforcers is to always pair with verbal and some social praise. Be specific about what you're reinforcing. Be immediate. Be consistent. Vary the reinforcer. So you don't want to use the same thing all the time because the child might get bored of it. Individualize the reinforcer for the child. Your child might not like M&Ms, so providing M&Ms as a reinforcer isn't going to work. Give choice if possible. Do you want Paw Patrol or a puppy, a stuffed puppy? So you just use whatever works for your child. Make it special. Children like novelty, so it's nice to mix it up. And be positive. Lots of positive praise. The next thing we're going to talk about is prompting. Now that we understand how to reinforce and the importance of reinforcement when teaching a new skill or structured teaching work system, prompting is going to be an important component as well. A prompt is something that we do to give help so that a behavior will occur. So at the beginning, when we're teaching something, for example, when you're teaching your child to ride a bike, you're going to use lots of prompting at the beginning. But as your child begins to learn the behavior or the skill, you're going to begin giving fewer prompts. You're going to reduce and fade. The types of prompts that you provide your child are verbal, physical, gestural, visual, auditory, and hints, little cues that you could provide that will help your child demonstrate the skill. The great thing about using structured teaching is it's very visually based. And so the child has a lot of visual prompts within the system to follow. So you want to reduce the amount of verbal prompts that you provide and try gesturally prompting towards the visuals. Tips for prompting. Gradually reduce prompts. Use more in the beginning and less as the skill is learned. Be sensitive to the changes in the child's behavior. If your child is having an off day, you might want to increase the prompts that you're using with them. Independence to the best of their ability is the goal. So your child might be doing a task with gestural prompts and you're still prompting, but that's okay if that's what your child is able to do. Be careful about giving too much help or too little help. If you give too little help, your child's going to become frustrated. And if you give too much, they can become dependent on the prompts. The great thing about using structured teaching is that the prompts are embedded and you don't have to fade visual prompts. So they're always going to be there. Fading prompts. This is a skill and can be quite challenging for people, but what it means is gradually using less and less, so eventually the child is able to perform the skill on their own without our help. So the child may need some help or prompting for some skills all the time or some of the time. We want to try to get to the point that the child is most independent, to develop their own individual potential. Everyone is different. Now we're going to look at selecting a goal to teach. So now that we've learned the basics of structured teaching and the importance of using reinforcement and prompting when teaching the system, let's look at selecting a goal. Think of this as a checklist that you need to complete before you begin teaching your chosen skill. Choose a goal that your child is able to achieve to reduce frustration for both of you. So start small and simple. So pick a skill that you would like your child to learn. Break the skill down into manageable steps for your child. So for example, the example I'm going to use is teaching your child to get dressed to go outside more independently. So you want to pick that skill. So let's break it down. So the child's going to put on shoes first, then hat, then coat, then outside. You want to create a visual to be used during teaching. And then you want to create the work system for teaching the skill. Remember the picture we showed with the clothing lined up in the bins? That's the work system that shows the progression of tasks in order to go outside. Create any visuals or materials needed and prepare the space ahead of time that you're going to teach the skill in, and have the materials for reinforcement handy. And then begin teaching. Remember, you may need to revise the schedule, work system, and environment as needed, but hang in there. It may take several attempts before you get it right. You want to build a routine of success for you and your child. And hey, you can do it. Just keep calm and positive. You got this. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time. So next steps are to view video demonstrations of using structured teaching for a variety of skills at home. And take a look at the tip sheets that will come with each video. These will provide you with further information on how to implement. And one final thought is to keep it short. So you don't have to have hours and hours of teaching. It could be 5 minutes. Keep it sweet and be positive and keep praising and keep reinforcing, and prompt only as much as your child needs to be successful. And make it routine. All kids like routine, especially kids with autism. And routine is comforting, and anything that becomes part of your routine will be easier for your child to learn. Thanks for watching, and happy structured teaching.